I'd like to show you how you can use something in Scratch called broadcasts to make different screens appear. So one thing that you can do is you can have games with different levels using broadcasts, and then there are some other things that you can do. You can make screens appear at the start of the game, or you can make a game over screen at the end. So let's have a look at some examples. So you'll see in this game I've started playing already. I've managed to collect some astronauts, so I'm going to collect my last astronaut now, and then when this happens it will jump to level 2. So you'll see in level 2 I get a message, welcome to level 2. I've got more astronauts to collect. This time I've got more bats trying to make things harder for me, and I've also got some of the ways through the maze blocked off here. So that's one example. So let's have a look at some other examples of using broadcasts to make screens appear. You can also put broadcasts at the start or the end of a game. So here you'll see I've got one as a game over screen. So I start with 3 lives. So if I touch the asteroids every time I lose a life, so if I touch 3 asteroids it takes me to a game over screen. So let's have a look at how to make a screen that pops up. So I'm going to use this as a starting screen, so a screen where I'm going to make some instructions pop up, and then you have to click a button to start the game. So in this game you've got 20 seconds when I click the green flag to collect as many hearts as possible. So if I just click there, then you'll see I've used clones, so all these hearts appear. Every time you click on one you get a point. So let's go into the code. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to make another backdrop. So I've got this backdrop here, so you can see I've clicked on this backdrop, and so I'm going to go over to backdrops and I want to add another one for my instructions. So I could either do this down here and click the paint, or I can do exactly the same thing over here once I'm in the backdrops and click paint there. So I'm just going to draw around the screen. So you'll see here I've chosen a colour, I've gone to the square, and I've made sure that I can see the whole screen. So now I'm going to go to text, and I'm just going to put a quick message just for now. I'm just going to change this to a dark colour, and then I'm going to click on the screen, and then I'm going to write my message. So it's very small at the minute, but it will get bigger. Okay, click the button to start. I'm going to just click somewhere else. I can move that down, and then I can just drag it to make it bigger. So I'm going to put a button as a sprite just above it. So I'm just going to go to the arrow, move that back, and then I'm going to put some more text. How many hearts can you? How many hearts can? Question mark. How many hearts can you collect in 20 seconds? So I'm rushing through this so that you're not waiting too long, but I'm just moving this down. Now because I've got scores on my screen there, I think I'll just move that score over there, and then we can see that. So what I need to do is I need to put something that you can actually click on the next screen. Okay, so that's all good. So I've got 2 screens now. I've got 2 backdrops. I've got one called bedroom, or bedroom 2, and then I've got another one, it's called backdrop 1 at the minute. So I'm going to change this to start screen so that I know which one I've got. So let's go to the hearts, and I want to go to the code and change the code. So what I want to happen now is that when the game starts, I want to see the start screen. So I'm going to go to events, get a green flag. So when the game starts, and I'm going to go to looks, and I'm going to change the backdrop. So sorry, I've gone to sounds there, haven't I? So oh no, I haven't. So I'm going to go to switch backdrop to start screen. So that's right. I've got my switch backdrop to start screen. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a sprite, and I'm going to get a button. And I'm going to put the button on the screen there. So click the button to start. And then I'm going to get a when this sprite clicked button. Now what we need to do is we need to go and we need to use broadcasts. So you'll see that I've got something down here. I've got these that say when I receive message 1 and broadcast message 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new broadcast. So a broadcast is like an invisible signal that gets sent out. So people can't see it, it doesn't make any noise, but it lets the game know something's happening. So I'm going to click message 1 and change it to new message. And I'm going to call it start. So this is my start. And so I'm going to say when this sprite is clicked, start, so broadcast start. So that's going to send a message called start. Right, I'm not going to use when I receive message 1 here for much. I will do in a minute, because what I need to do is I need to go back and I need to make the screen change. So let's go to my backdrops. And I'm going to the code of my backdrops, and I'm going to say, well, I could do it here. I tell you what, I'll do it with a heart. So it says, when the game starts, switch backdrop to start screen. And I'm going to say, when I receive the message, so if I go to events, when I receive the start message, I want to switch the backdrop to the game screen. So I'm going to go to Lux, and I'm going to go to switch backdrop to bedroom 2. Okay, so now if I press the game, if I click on here, you'll see the hearts are all appearing, and I don't want the hearts to actually appear yet. So I only want the hearts to appear when I click on this button, and so the hearts are only going to appear when I get the start message. So let's see where the hearts appear. So we've got the hearts appear here. So when the green flag's clicked, this is where they go. We set the score. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this away, and I'm going to go back to events, and I'm going to say when I receive the start message, then all this is going to start. So let's just have a look and see what difference that makes. So if I click on this, right, okay, so they're not there. So if I click on the button here, then that happens. So the game's ready to go. Now you can see there's only one problem, that this button is still here. So I need to hide this button. So if I stop this, let's go back to the button, and you'll see I left this one here, when I receive message 1. So when I get the start message, I need to hide this, don't I? So when I receive start, let's go to Lux and let's find hide. There it is. Okay. So that should work now. We've got that message there. So if we start the game, how many hearts can you collect? The only thing is we've got the timer going, so I need to change the timer as well. I need to change that as well. But if I click on this, you'll see that this comes out and the game starts. So I just need to change that with the timer. So I've done a bit of tidying up here. So one of the problems is making sprites appear and disappear when you want them to, when you're broadcasting different messages. So if you look at the code here for the button, what I did find was that when the game started, I needed to add this when green flag click show, because as soon as you hide it, the next time you play the game, it's still hidden. So I've just added this so that when I start the game, click the button disappears and the game starts. Now you'll also notice that this time you can't see the score. So when I've clicked the green flag, I've hidden the score and hidden the timer, and when I broadcast the start message, I show them. So that just looks like this. You'll see I've got here, when green flag clicked, hide variable timer, hide variable score. So if we have a look at the game, you'll see that when I click the green flag, these disappear. So there they go, they've gone. But now when I receive the start message, the broadcast, you'll see that they appear. So they back up on the screen there and they're ready to be used in the game. So earlier on I showed you this game that had a game over screen. So let's look at how the game over screen is used in this game. So just like the last game, I've made a game over backdrop. So if we click on the backdrops here and go to backdrops, you'll see I've got two backdrops. I've got one that I've called main screen, which has got the stars in, and then I've got this other one which is called game over. So what I've done is, if I go to the code for the rocket, you'll see that in the code for the rocket, what I've done is I've made sure that when the game starts, we need to be showing the right backdrop screen. In fact, I think I've put that for the code in the backdrop itself. Yep, so if I go to the code for the backdrop, let's make that a bit bigger so we can see it. So when the green flag's clicked, we switch to the backdrop main screen. So we get this backdrop here. And then when you receive the message game over, so there's a broadcast that I've made called game over, we switch the backdrop to the broadcast that's called game over. So what I need to do is I make sure when that game over screen comes on the screen, I want to hide the rocket and I want to hide the rocks. So we've only got the game over screen on the screen. Now, what I've done very simply is then I've made a new broadcast. So if you've missed this, you haven't seen this on the earlier part of the video, I can get hold of this where it says broadcast and click new broadcast, and I've made a broadcast called game over. So let's just get rid of that. And then what I've done is I've said when I receive the game over broadcast, I want to hide the rocket. So very simply, if I come down here, you see I've got one that says when I receive game over, and so I've got that from events. I've just got when I receive, and then mine, because I've made one saying game over, then it's on the drop down. And I've gone to looks and I've said hide. So when the game finishes, I've got to hide the rocket. I've just got to make sure that when the green flag's clicked to start the game, I can see the rocket, that the rocket is there. So we've got at the start here, when the green flag is clicked, show the rocket. So it's not going to be invisible at the start of the game. So what I've done is I've gone to the rocks and I've done the same when I receive game over, hide, and I've done the same for the laser. So when we get that game over screen, they've disappeared. Now I could make the variables disappear. I could say when I receive game over and go to variable and then hide variable. As long as I make sure that I make it visible at the start of the game, that's okay. So I could hide them, but I'm just going to leave them on the screen for now. So that's how you make a game over screen. So let's have a look at broadcasts for multi-level games. So in this game, I'm on level 1 of my maze. If I collect the last 2 of these astronauts, then I'm going to go to level 2. And you'll notice at the moment I've got 3 bats. Look at the speed of the bat at the bottom and how quickly it's moving. And look at the shape of the maze. So if I just quickly collect on these last ones on here. So if I just move down and then hopefully I can get to this one. Oh, I've just lost a life there. So now it says welcome to level 2. And you'll see on level 2, this bat is moving a lot quicker. I've got more astronauts that I need to collect. And also I've got these blocks off in the maze. So let's look at these things one at a time. So to start off, if I just go to the spaceship, the code for the spaceship, you'll see that when the game starts, what I'm doing is I'm on level 1, but I've made a broadcast that I've called level 2. So you'll see that what I've done is I've gone to broadcast, click here, gone to new message, and I've called it level 2. So I've got one called level 2. So on here you'll see that the rocket, it says that when you get to level 2, it will say level 2. So when I receive level 2, the rocket actually says welcome to level 2. The other thing is the shape of the maze changes. So let's look at that. So if I click on the backdrop for the maze, you'll see I've got these backdrops over here. So I've got one called level 1, and then I've got one called level 2. So I've drawn 2 separate backdrops. And if you look at the code for the maze, then you'll see, if I just make this a little bit bigger, then when the green flag's clicked, we start off with level 1, and when I receive level 2, I switch backdrop to level 2. So how do I get to level 2? Well, each of these astronauts I get 1 point for. So if I just come back here to this code, you'll see on this particular part of this code here that I set the score to 0 when I click the green flag, and then if my score equals 4, so in other words, if I collect 4 astronauts, it broadcasts level 2. And then when I'm on level 2, if my score equals 10, then it says mission complete and it stops everything. It ends the whole game. So those are some of the ways that I can actually broadcast from level 1 to level 2. Okay, so in this particular game, if I collect 4 astronauts that are worth 1 point each, it puts me on level 2. Now, you'll see on this game at the moment, then this is level 2, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 black bats, and then this other bat here as well. So if I stop this and go back to level 1, you'll see I've only got 3 bats here. So where are all these other bats down at the bottom? So at the moment, this bat is invisible. If I click it, you'll see it just shows me where it should be. It should be over here. So you'll see it's moving up and down, but it's invisible, so it's not doing anything. So this is one of my level 2 bats. So if I click on here, you'll see it's got all the code to make it move from side to side and bounce if it touches the red, or bounce if it touches the edge of the screen. But it says when the green flag's clicked, hide this bat. So that bat is hidden, and you'll see it says when I receive level 2, show, and so when level 2 comes along, you'll see that this bat then appears up there. So I'll just stop that because I just pressed this to make it appear. Now this bat down at the bottom is moving really slowly in level 1, so I'm just clicking on the bats to make sure I've got the right one. So it's this one, it's bat number 3. So you'll see that on this code here, what I've got is I've got this bat that's moving. It's forever moving 1 step, and if it's on the edge bouncing, that's when I click on the green flag. So what I've done is I've duplicated all this code, and I've just simply changed the code at the top. So I'll just see if I can clean up these blocks and I can find where it is, because it's hiding somewhere on here. There it is. So it's the same code that I've duplicated, but it says when I receive level 2, and instead of moving 1 step, it's moving 5 steps. So I've speeded it up so it moves across there. So those are some of the ways you can make a multi-level game in a maze. Now in a different game, you could make sure that the speed of the NPCs speeds up. So if they're coming to get your main character, you could make them come faster. You could make them fire more bullets, so you're not waiting as long between each bullet if it's a space game where you're shooting them back. Or if it's a simple game where you're actually collecting things, you could add other things in there where you lose points instead of gaining points, and they're all hidden in level 1, but in level 2 they appear. So there are lots of different ways you can use multi-level games.